Live Duncan Trussell Family Hour podcast being recorded at the Portland Float Conference. Cool. Man, this is what you guys are doing here at this Float Conference is incredible, and I think it's really important. And I'm sure you guys have been talking and bowing to and honoring the creator of the first float tank, John Lilly. And yeah, I love John Lilly a lot, and John Lilly falls in line with a lot of other great inventors in the sense that we use their technology and we take their technology for granted that they brought into the world. But a lot of times we kind of forget the other stuff that they talked about. And John Lilly's a prime example of that. There's some other ones too. Nikola Tesla, for example, is another example of a genius. And both of them have something in common that I quite like, which is both of them claim in some way or another to have been contacted by entities. And what I like about John Lilly and Nikola Tesla is they weren't afraid to use that word, entity. They weren't afraid to talk about what was happening to them inside those, he wasn't afraid to talk about what was happening to him when he was taking psychedelics and floating. How many of you guys know that story about what happened to him in the tank? Clap if you know that story about... We live in a time now where some of the smartest people on Earth, Elon Musk being one of them, are talking about the dangers of artificial intelligence. How recently with the scary shit that's going on with North Korea, Elon Musk said that we shouldn't be worried about North Korea, but we should instead be thinking about artificial intelligence because it's 1,000 times more dangerous than nuclear war. This is Elon Musk. This is one of the smartest people on planet Earth saying this. And what's really interesting about him saying that is that in 1974, John Lilly made contact with some kind of malevolent entity that he called a machine intelligence. He called it solid state intelligence. What's the name of it? Solid state intelligence. Some kind of entity that was going to manifest as technology and was going to use human beings to appear on the planet and take over. This was long before Elon Musk started working on solar panels. This was before AOL. This was before Twitter. This is before we had a tweeting president, or before we had the first emergence of a malevolent AI that I'm aware of, one of the first emergences, which is these fucking Twitter bots that are creating the impression of a majority that isn't there. And all of this was, in a weird way, predicted by the creator of float tanks. And it's amazing to really think about that, because I know a lot of people, they say, oh, you know, Lilly, later on down the line, he was like shooting too much ketamine and he lost his mind. And yet, he predicted one of the great problems that we are facing as a species today, which is that this technology that is coming through us has such great potential to transform the world in a beautiful way, and yet it has an equal potential to completely destroy the entire planet. Now, I'm sorry, I don't mean to start off on such a negative note, but I think it's if there was ever a time to talk about how important what you guys are doing is, it's at a float conference, right? It's to emphasize what you're doing. Maybe, I don't think any of you have forgotten it, but this technology that you are allowing so many people to have access to is a transformative technology. It's a transformative technology that is going to and has allowed so many people to get outside of their limited conceptualization of what life is and what they think the universe is, and to overcome the boundaries that this paradigm that we're in right now wraps around our fucking brains. It's showing people there is so much more to this universe than what you can see and what you can feel and what you can hear. Now, the first time I took psychedelics in a float tank was actually the last time I took psychedelics in a float tank. And I had this wonderful, for a while, I had this wonderful Zen tent created by Shane Stott. A beautiful thing, man. And I had it in my house. He came and helped me set it up. And I was really excited about it, because suddenly I had this hole in the universe sitting right next to my podcast studio. So I could just go climb into this thing and vanish into time. And of course, I was thinking, man, I'm gonna eat some fucking mushrooms and go in there, and I'm going to contact entities, and I'm going to get the transmission. So I did it, ate some mushrooms. Just joking, cop. I didn't really do that. For those of you listening, there's a police officer in the audience disguised as a hippie. I could see right through you, man. So I ate these mushrooms, went to the float tank, was floating in the tank, and it was beautiful for a second. And then the mushrooms very clearly started talking to me, I guess you could say, in the way that they do. And they said, why don't you go outside, man? This is dumb. What are you doing? Why are you laying in a dark pool of salt water when you could be under a tree or looking at birds? That's the first time I attempted to add something to the floating experience. The second time I attempted to add something to the floating experience, it was a bigger project, because there's something called the overview effect, which is I think it's called the overview effect. It's when astronauts see the Earth from space, and they're floating there. That's what it's